Hi everyone, welcome back to English Lab. My name is Luis and this is another B1 short story in simple English. Today I want to tell you a true story about a very big mistake I made in English, in a cafe, in London. It was embarrassing, but it also changed how I feel about speaking. You'll hear useful B1 vocabulary to talk about mistakes, feelings, and funny situations in real life. The story is called The English Mistake I Will Never Forget. If you want to practice after listening, you can download the free PDF study guide in the description. Let's begin. Many years ago, I went to London for a short English course. My English was okay. Not beginner, not advanced. Somewhere in the middle. I could talk, but every sentence was work for my brain. I always felt like I was driving a car in a new city. I could move, but I had to think about every turn. During the day, I had classes with other students from different countries. In the classroom, I felt safe. If I made a mistake, it was normal. Everyone made mistakes. That was the point of the class. But outside the classroom, on the street, in shops, in cafes, it felt different. There it was real life, real London, real people, real English. One afternoon, after class, I decided to go to a small cafe near the school. I passed that cafe every day, but I always walked fast and looked inside without going in. That day, it was raining outside, like many days in London. Not a big storm, but that classic light rain that never really stops. The sky was gray, the street was wet, and people were walking quickly with umbrellas. The cafe looked warm and quiet from the outside. Yellow light, wooden tables, a few small plants in the windows. I could see people reading or working on laptops. Some were talking softly. It looked like the kind of place where people stayed for a while, not just for a quick coffee. I thought, okay, today I will be brave. I will go in and order something in English, like a normal person who lives here. I opened the door. A small bell rang above my head. Inside, it smelled like coffee and cinnamon. Soft music was playing, some kind of jazz. There were maybe 10 people inside, each in their own little world. I went to the counter. There was a barista, a young woman with glasses and a friendly face, tying her hair up while she cleaned a cup. She saw me and said, "Hi there, what can I get you?" In that moment, I wanted to be confident. I wanted to sound natural, like a local, not like a student who just came from class. In my head, I remembered a phrase I heard many times in movies. "Can I have?" So I said, trying to copy the movie rhythm, "Hi, can I have a cappuccino, please?" She smiled. "Sure, what size?" Now here is where the problem started. In my language, we don't usually say small, medium, large for coffee. We just say coffee, and the cup is normal. So I got a little confused. For a second, I looked at the menu above her head, hoping to see pictures of the sizes. There were no pictures, just words and prices. I didn't want a tiny coffee, but I also didn't want a huge one. I wanted a normal-sized coffee. So I tried to say medium, but my brain did something strange. Somewhere in my vocabulary, the word average was waiting, and my brain, very creative in that moment, mixed the two words, medium and average. What came out of my mouth was not correct. I looked at her and said, very confident, "A mediocre one, please." I even smiled a little, like I knew exactly what I was saying. The moment I said the word mediocre, I saw her face change. Her eyebrows went up. Her mouth opened a little. She stopped moving for a second. Then she started laughing. Not a little polite smile. She really laughed. I didn't understand why. Time slowed down. In my head, I thought, what did I say? Why is this funny? Did I use a strange word? Did I pronounce something wrong? She laughed and said between laughs, Sorry. Did you say a mediocre one?" I felt my face become red, very red. I could feel the heat in my cheeks and ears. In that moment, my brain did a fast translation. I went back to my language and then back to English. I remembered that mediocre in English means not very good, low quality, nothing special. So I understood the situation. I just asked for a bad coffee. I wanted to disappear. I wanted to run out of the cafe into the rain and never come back. My brain started to attack me. Why did you say that? How can you confuse medium and mediocre? You watch movies, you study vocabulary, and you still say stupid things. Everyone in this cafe probably heard you. But something interesting happened. The barista was still laughing, but not in a cruel way. She was laughing like a friend who heard a very good joke, not like someone who wanted to hurt me. She said, "This is the first time a customer asks for a mediocre coffee. Usually they want a good one." I started to laugh too. What else could I do? The situation was already ridiculous. I said, sorry, I wanted to say medium. Medium coffee, not mediocre. I was honest. I didn't try to hide the mistake or pretend it didn't happen. She smiled and said, don't worry, your English is good, and your mistake made my day. She turned to the machine and prepared the cappuccino. I watched her write something on the cup with a marker. Then she gave it to me. On the cup, she wrote one word with a small heart. Mediocre. When I sat down at the table with my coffee and looked at the cup, I started to laugh again. I took a photo of it with my phone. I thought, okay, this is my souvenir from today. Not from a museum or a famous street, from my own mistake. As I drank the coffee, it was actually very good, not mediocre at all. I thought about what happened. In that moment, something changed in my relationship with English. Before this, I was always afraid of making mistakes. I tried to speak perfectly, to choose the correct word every time. Before speaking, I would build the sentence in my head, then check the grammar, then think about vocabulary, and only then say it. It was heavy, it was stressful, it was slow. After mediocre coffee, I saw something I never saw before. Number one, the world didn't end. The cafe was still there. The music was still playing. People were still reading. Nobody pointed at me. Nobody took a video for the internet. Number two, my mistake didn't make her respect me less. In fact, it created a connection. We shared a laugh. We shared a story. Number three, the thing I was most afraid of, a big, visible mistake, actually gave me freedom because I survived it. I stayed in London for 3 more weeks. I went back to that cafe many times, sometimes with classmates, sometimes alone, sometimes just for a quick coffee before class. Every time, the barista remembered me. Sometimes she said with a smile, the usual, mediocre coffee? And we both laughed. Sometimes she just wrote mediocre on the cup without saying anything. And when I saw it, I smiled. Little by little, the word mediocre became less about bad coffee and more about a funny story that belongs to me. At the end of the course, on my last day in London, I went to the cafe to say goodbye. I ordered one last cappuccino. She asked, medium? I laughed and said, yes, but please don't write mediocre this time. I'm trying to be a serious adult. She laughed and wrote something on the cup anyway. When she gave it to me, I turned it and read, not mediocre at all. I walked back to school with that cup in my hand in the light London rain, feeling different. My English wasn't perfect, but my fear was a little smaller. And all of that started with one wrong word in a small cafe on a rainy afternoon. I still remember that day very clearly. Not because of the embarrassment, but because of the freedom that came after. Here are 3 things I learned. Number 1, you will never speak a language without making mistakes. 0 mistakes, because 0 real conversation. If you want connection, you must accept mistakes. Number 2, some mistakes are not dangerous. They are just human. Sometimes they are even charming. People don't only remember your vocabulary, they remember how you made them feel. Number 3, when you survive a big mistake, your fear becomes smaller. After mediocre coffee, normal small mistakes didn't scare me anymore. I thought, well, it's not as bad as that day in the cafe. So here's my invitation for you. The next time you want to say something in English and your brain says, careful, you might make a mistake, I want you to remember my cappuccino in London. Say the sentence anyway. Maybe it will be perfect, maybe it will be mediocre, but maybe it will be the start of a good story. Thanks for listening to this English Lab short story. If you want to practice the vocabulary and expressions from this episode, download the free study guide in the description. And if these stories help you feel less afraid of mistakes, subscribe to English Lab and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next episode. See you in the next one.